Welcome. We're so glad you're able to join us today. This is the South Dakota Healthy Nutrition Collaborative Research and Programs webinar series, where we're going to be going over different programs that serve South Dakotans to address food, nutrition, and security. So just as a reminder, the purpose of the South Dakota Healthy Nutrition Collaborative is to bring a collective voice to support access to nutritious foods, which builds a strong foundation for healthy South Dakota families and communities to prosper. We have 3 goal groups. The first is to improve coordination, identify areas for statewide research and evaluation, and promote programmatic best practices to improve South Dakotans' food and nutrition and security. The second is to elevate the voices of food and nutrition advocate researchers and individuals experiencing food, nutrition, and security. And the third is to advance policy implementation to improve food and nutrition and security in South Dakota. I am pleased to welcome Michelle Tiersma, who is the South Dakota State University Extension's Food, Family, and Wellness Director. I hope I got that correct. Michelle is going to go over SDSU Extension's programs related to food, nutrition, and security. So, Michelle, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm going to get everything pulled up here. Of course, I have a lot of screens going. Make sure I get this in the right version for you. All right. Does that show up okay?
Yes.
Perfect. All right. Like Jen said, my name is Michelle Churchma, and I'm the Family Food and Wellness Program Director at SDSU Extension. Most people, when they think about Extension, they think about 4-H, or they may be a farm family and they think about the ag agents that their parents, or that they maybe went with their parents to the to the county office to talk about crops and farming and all of those things. But another component to Extension is family food and wellness. And so historically, just for a little historical background, these were the classes that were around maybe nutrition, or maybe around sewing or gardening or things like that. And some of those components are still incorporated into our programming today. So we'll go through that just a little bit. So we'll touch a little bit on our mission, the programs that we have, and then how we can stay in contact. So the Family Food and Wellness team, predominantly what we do is identify or create research and evidence-based programs to educate people across South Dakota about issues that affect their personal well-being and healthy living. And we'll get into the details of what that means. I think we're all aware well-being and wellness is huge. It's more than just physical activity and nutrition. So, and we address all these facets of wellness through our staffing model, which I'll talk about here on the next slide. We primarily use field and state specialists that have positions that cover statewide. And so they go all over to do their wellness programming or education for families and communities. So South Dakota is structured a little bit different than other states. If you're familiar with Extension in other states, they're predominantly county-based. It was long before my time, but we restructured, and so we went to more of a regional model. So you can see kind of at the top there are locations that we are settled in across the state. Now, when we look at 4-H, they are still in a county model, and so you will still find like county 4-H advisors, but our other staff are located at a regional center or in our tribal communities. So I mentioned our field and state specialists. Our field specialists are master's degree, at a minimum master degree trained professionals within a specific discipline. And our state specialists are PhD positions. They're sometimes also have an appointment as faculty. Sometimes they're just research, kind of just depends, but they're PhD level. And then we also do tribal work. We have our Healthy Families and Communities program is predominantly focused in our tribal locations across the state. And that program is an umbrella, if you will, for our SNAP Ed, our CDC High Obesity, and our FNEP programming and funding. All right, so one of our first areas that we have within our realm is personal finances. So Lorna Sabo Wounded Head runs our family resource management programming. So anything from consumer protection to financial basics to money mentors. So that's a volunteer-based program that she offers and trains volunteers in. And then she also has a Your Money is Your Goal Your Money, Your Goals course that can be either in person or kind of a self-directed. She also does education from youth through adult. So there's many more with things within that, but that's kind of a high level of where her work is at. Another facet that we have is older adults. So we have a gerontologist. Her name is Lacey Brown. She's located out in Rapid City. And she primarily, her main focus these last couple of years has been focused on the Voices for Home modification of the Dakotas work. And so really that work is focusing on helping builders and buyers understand the importance of buying or building a home that can be adaptable as people age and for different things that you may experience as you age and different accommodations that you may need, how you can do that in the future, not necessarily right away, but in the future for a lower cost, because we know adaptations can be really expensive at a later age if the house isn't really adequately set up to do that. So she has a heavy focus on that, but then she also does caregiving, she does aging well. There's a new program out that's organized this program that helps people prepare for legal and financial must-haves and documentation, making sure it's all in order and ready to go as you age. And so your family members can then be better prepared as things may happen. Chronic disease support. So Lori Oster is our program director in this area right now. Many of you may be familiar with Better Choices, Better Health. That is an evidence-based program for adults and their caregivers. And it's a 6-week interactive workshop, and we have multiple focuses with that. So there's a diabetes one, there's a chronic pain, cancer, caregivers. There's also a worksite one that we can do. We haven't done a lot of, but we can do that as well. And so she oversees all of that programming currently. Early childhood, Audrey Ryder is up in Watertown, and she runs our early childhood program. She has done some curricula development. You can see that there. She works with a lot of our smaller communities on being early learner communities and on rural childcare needs. So she's been doing some focus groups with a couple different communities across the state on understanding their childcare needs and helping them work through figuring out solutions for that. And so that work's really picked up and been really exciting to learn more about this last year. Physical activity, we just hired, actually we just had somebody start this week. Her name is Erin, so she'll be added to this presentation here very soon. And then we have Whitney Keller-Reitz. Whitney is in Watertown, Erin will be in Sioux Falls. And Erin will more so focus on our physical activity programming, so enhanced fitness. Tai Chi is new, we just brought that on last year, and then Walk with Ease. And then some of the state physical activity programs, we work closely with the state, so on park prescriptions. And there's a spring and a fall walking challenge or exercise challenge. We've kind of been playing around with both that we put on with the state as well. And then Whitney will focus over more to community health once we get Erin up and going. But right now, she's been covering for us. As far as mental health, we have Andrea Bjornstad. She is based in Brookings. She is heavily into the research on farm and ranch stress. She works with a kind of multi-state region on that work, and they just got done doing some deep diving with some surveying of farmers and ranchers and trying to understand some of the stressors in their relationships. And we will be kind of taking that data and looking at how we can help develop programming or resources going forward. She's been working with the state on the Ag Voucher program, if you've heard about that. She's done some training for counselors on some of the nuances of farmers and ranchers and some of their stressors to help them better support any farmer or rancher or family members that come and just need extra support due to stress. We also provide mental health first aid and CPR training. Our Healthy Families and Communities program, I talked about that a little bit at the beginning. So that has two main components to it. The first component is direct education. So through our SNAP Ed and FNEP funding, we have family and community health educators, and they provide evidence-based educational series to those that qualify on how to make their food dollars stretch, cooking healthy meals. They work with how to shop and read labels, how to budget with, shopping on a budget, some of those pieces. And Sam Devaney is our program manager for the direct ed side of this work. The other half to that is our policy systems and environmental strategies. And Lindsay Moore is our program director for the CDC HOP grant. And then Sam Jacquemet is the SNAP Ed and CDC HOP program manager. So he kind of helps to oversee that we are being consistent and covering all of our communities as best as we can with all the different strategies. And we take very much a community approach. So we have a lot of community and school wellness coalitions. We don't have a prescribed strategy that we use in each community. We really allow those community coalitions to kind of drive the work that they want to do for their community. And then we work with them to figure out how is it that we can help support them? How can we help them find funding for it? And then how can we move, the initiatives forward? This is a map that just gives you an idea of where our staff or where we have positions at. I will say some of these positions are currently vacant, and we are working on hiring. And then here is just a quick snapshot of some of our staff that cover our different areas. You may have seen or talked to them. They're pretty heavily involved in the work that we do and making connections. And so we're very grateful for that because really the connections is the biggest part in this community work, and they do a great job. So food preservation is another component that we offer. Jessica Milliners just started with our team last year, and she is currently out on maternity leave, but she runs our food preservation, and then she also works very closely with our SNAP and FNEP programming on the curriculum side. So she has pretty good insight into what's happening in our communities with the food preservation work and volunteers, but then also some of the educational needs that we hear about and we see. So she can kind of match those up, which is nice. Our food preservation program, we have a Master Food Preserver volunteer program so that we bring on new volunteers every year and do training, and then they can go out and provide different support and assistance in their communities. We also have a self-study course for those that are not interested in being volunteers. But then we have just added this last year the ability also to test pressure gauge canners. We had noticed that there was not a lot of places to do that. And so we have now gotten trained to be able to do that. And so trying to figure out the best way to get that service out there. And so more to come on that if there's any interest in it. Food safety, Curtis Braun is our food safety specialist. He is actually only part-time with us, and he works closely on cottage food law training. And then he just added this last year, the acid or acidified non-evidence-based recipes, which is kind of fun to see. We all probably have recipes that have been handed down for generations, and sometimes they have not been tested to see if they are evidence-based and safe. And so he now has the ability to do that. So you can send a recipe into him and he can test it out and then provide feedback on, on what he saw as far as growth of bacteria and or if there's any modifications that could be done. So that's kind of fun. As far as we know, we are the only extension across the US to offer that. And so he is working with extensions across the US to help them get that service out if they're interested in offering that. He also does food safety evaluation, process reviews, and nutrition labels for small business entrepreneurs. So he works a lot with farmers market managers and producers and consumers. Farmers markets, so Rhoda Burrows and Curtis work on this. They work on the market operation, and we have a resource manual available to anybody interested in starting a farmer's market or for those that are currently running, and then also working with them to get SNAP EBT at markets as they are interested. To go to Food RX, many of you have probably heard about this from Jeb, as he sits on this group with us as well. He runs this program, and this is a grant-funded program where patients can redeem prescriptions for locally grown produce. Primarily, they're focused out on the west side of the state at this point, but I know he's had a lot of interest in getting that to be more widespread. This is just some information on how to get involved. We have a lot of information on our website, but primarily that interest form for patients, growers, and healthcare providers is on our website to get connected with them to get more information. Farm to School. This is an effort that formerly Anna Tweet was running for us. She unfortunately just transitioned over to WIC to work with them, and so we have a vacancy here right now that we will be working on filling. But she has really helped us get started in this space, focusing on beef to school. We've seen a lot of success there, and working with the Farm to School network with the state and DRA to get kind of that network going and getting things started. And so that work continues to grow. But then she also would kind of pull local foods in with that. We also pull some Farm to School efforts over on our SNAP Ed work as well in our tribal communities. Here are some links on how to stay in contact with some of the things that I mentioned. The Healthy Living newsletter, that is just our group's monthly newsletter if you're interested in kind of just hearing more about what's going on with us overall. And then this one, it's on my bottom right, is Our Experts contact. So you can find all of our specialists there and their contact information if you have questions on anything specific, or I am happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much, Michelle. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording now, and then we'll just take some questions.